Small teams putting together an entry for the Indianapolis 500 often result in some of the best stories leading into the greatest spectacle in racing, especially when they make the show. In 1991, Walker Racing entered the 75th Indianapolis 500 with Willie T. Ribbs. Ribbs became the first black driver to qualify at Indianapolis and was the fastest qualifier on bump day. In 2008, Buddy Lazier qualified for the Indianapolis 500 in what was a bonsai run for Hemmelgarn Racing. Although Lazier and Hemmelgarn won the race together in 1996, both were now part-timers and the team made a last major swing at the fences with the crazy rear wing adjustment that put the Colorado native in the show. On the flip side, if a small team doesn't make the 500, the consequences can be far-reaching. In 2008, Rubicon Race Team failed to make the show with clutch problems keeping Max Pappas from leaving the pits on bump day. Pacific Coast Motorsports had a car fast enough to make the race, but Mario Dominguez lost control of the car exiting Turn 1 on the second lap of his final attempt, ending PCM's effort at Indy. That crash led to a sequence of events that bankrupted team owner Tyler Tadovic after their main sponsor did not pay the team, and an effort to merge Rubicon and PCM turned south. 10 years later, a popular IndyCar driver was on the outside looking in. Relegated to part-time status, Conor Daly had to fight and claw his way into the 2018 Indianapolis 500 field in a ride pieced together between two organizations and two car owners that wanted to do it their way with Daly caught in the middle. This is the story of Conor Daly's 2018 Indianapolis 500 effort. Conor Daly is the son of six-time Indianapolis 500 starter Derek Daly. The younger Daly hails from Noblesville, Indiana, and made a name for himself as part of Jeremy Shaw's Team USA scholarship program. In 2010, Daly won the Star Mazda title for Juncos Racing and led the 2011 Indy Lights points early in the season before competing in GP3 and GP2. Daly also competed in the 2013 Indy 500 for AJ Foyt Racing, but failed to start the race in 2015 after his car caught fire on the parade lap. Daly competed in his first full-time IndyCar campaign in 2016 for Dale Coyne Racing. That year, Daly finished second at Detroit and fourth at Watkins Glen, leading a decent amount of laps at St. Petersburg, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course, and at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. For 2017, Daly moved to AJ Foyt Racing, scoring 4 top 10 finishes, including a 5th at Gateway. Shortly after the 2017 IndyCar season ended, Daly competed with fellow IndyCar driver Alexander Rossi on the 30th season of The Amazing Race, where the pair finished 4th. During Daly's tenure on the show, the producers of the show kept possession of his phone, where he was unable to be in contact with the outside world. During that time frame, AJ Foyt Racing replaced both Daly and Carlos Munoz, with 2013 Indianapolis 500 winner Tony Kanaan and 2017 Freedom 100 winner Matthias Leist. Daly was now on the outside looking in. Most teams had their 500 lineups either confirmed or close to confirmed, and seats were limited. Nothing happened for a couple of months, and then a dinner at Harry and Izzy's with Tom Burns got things started. Burns had entered cars in previous Indy 500s. Dominic Dobson started for Burns in 1991, 92, and 93, and Burns' next entry was as a partner in Buddy Lazier's 2016 effort. Burns detailed a plan to have Daly drive his car in the 2018 Indy 500 with sponsorship from the U.S. Air Force. The car would be painted to look like one of the Air Force Thunderbird planes, with Burns wanting to run the car entirely in-house.
Well, I mean, it had to be accelerated because obviously, it was January, needed to happen quicker, but it also needed to go from, Tom wanted to run it himself. He wanted to buy the car. He wanted to run it with his own guys. He wanted to run it in-house. And I basically told him, I was like, you can't do that. Like, it's not possible these days to do that. And, Tom, I haven't spoken to him in a long time now, and I appreciate everything that he did, but again, it's not an era where you can do that anymore. We saw that with R.C. Enerson. You can't do that. You can't buy your own car and run it, and it's too difficult.
Daly convinced Burns to partner with Dale Coyne to enter the number 17 Honda, and everything was finalized in January. The last obstacle was funding. Dale Coyne needed $750,000 to run the car. The Air Force provided $450,000, and a longtime supporter of Daly's provided him with a $250,000 loan that he would have to pay back. The remaining $50,000 came from small sponsors in $5,000 and $10,000 increments. Burns, Daly, and the Air Force announced the entry in March at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The last step was securing the car that Daly would use for the race, which would eventually be one of Dale Coyne Racing's road course cars converted to an oval configuration. Many teams have a car at their race shops set aside just for the Indianapolis 500. After the season ends, many teams will start working on that car all through the off-season to work on how the body panels fit together to minimize bodywork seams, plus other mechanical details. Daly's 500 car was Zachary Clayman DeMello's road course car. The Canadian finished 12th in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course race before the Dale Coyne Racing and Tom Burns Racing crews began work on flipping the car setup and wrap from one car into another entirely, with Daly helping set the wrap himself. As for the team situation, Daly had Clayman DeMello as a teammate along with Sebastian Bourdais and Pippa Mann. Bourdais won 4 Champ Car titles in a row, but wasn't going to exactly be an open book for Daly, given how successful the Frenchman had been earlier in his career. Clayman DeMello was a rookie who had only one Indy Lights win to that point in his racing career, and Mann was a part-time driver trying to get rides where she could. Not exactly ideal from Daly's standpoint. Practice began on Tuesday, May 15th, and from the beginning there were issues. Daly did not get on track until 5:41 p.m., right before the end of practice that day. Daly did only 9 laps, while the vast majority of the field did between 30 and 60 laps. He was 33rd fastest of 34 cars that recorded lap times that day. I was covering Daly that year for the Noblesville Times. I had a story about Daly in his hometown newspaper after every day of track activity. When I approached Daly at the end of that first day of practice, he was visibly frustrated and did not want to be interviewed. Burns was willing to talk, however. The audio from that interview has a lot of wind noise, but this is what Burns said about Tuesday's running. We had some problems getting the car delivered to us in time. We were supposed to have it 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't able to be delivered, so we would have had 3 weeks to prepare it, and it would have been ready to go out there. It rained in the Grand Prix, so my crew didn't get done with it until 12 o'clock last night putting part of it together. Then they had to spend all morning putting it together, having something of semblance to a race car. We ran 2:15. That was respectable. Conor wants to do more. I understand that. We've all got answers to it. We'll just have to find the process to answer the questions and the problems that we have, but we'll be fine. The car came together, it went fine, but we just had meticulous adherence to detail. That's the quote I can give you. That's what I used to put on all my pit equipment and all my tools, meticulous adherence to detail. And because some of these guys have never worked with each other, they don't know what to expect, they don't know where they're going, exactly what they're doing. Butch is having to babysit everybody, so we'll get everything straightened out tomorrow. We'll be fine. The following day was a bit more positive as Daly turned 87 laps in practice. However, Daly was 31st fastest out of 35 cars, causing Daly some concern. This was the interview I did with Daly after practice that day.
You turned a lot more laps today than you did yesterday. How was the car today compared to what you ran, the few laps you ran yesterday?
Honestly, man, we're struggling with a lot right now. I don't know what's going on, but our car is just drastically slower than the other team cars. So we don't really know why that is. So just a lot of question marks. It was nice to run a lot of laps, nice to run in general, but we're just so far off. So we don't really know why, but we got to just try and figure it out. This deal's a lot different than what I thought it would be going into it.
From the start of the day to the end of the day, what kind of changes did y'all make?
We made a lot of changes, but it's difficult to make a lot of changes fast because we got. I can't really say a lot as to why, but yeah, we're in a different spot than we thought we would be.
On Thursday, Daly was 34th fastest on the speed chart, which on the surface is not what a driver wants to see. However, in the non-tow assisted speed chart, Daly was 28th fastest. Since qualifying attempts are done in single car qualifying runs, that was progress. But there were concerns over the team's Honda engine. Some on the team had their doubts that the engine they had wasn't as powerful as other Honda entries, as some of the data they had didn't exactly make sense to the team.
I remember we looked at data that you enter corners faster than my teammates, but you go down the straight slower. So it's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
No.
So
Honda's position was understandable. There were more competitive entries that they were supporting, and this was a part-time entry that came together comparatively at the last minute, which doesn't seem like an attractive entry to spend a lot of resources on. On Fast Friday, IndyCar increased the engine boost to what cars are going to run during the qualifying weekend. Daly was 25th fastest overall, which gave him a bit more comfort as we spoke after practice that day.
How do you feel the car is right now?
yeah, I mean on our no-toe sheets we're in the top 15, so I think that's good. Every no-toe is different, but when it's true no-toe at all, we're in the top 15, so that's good. But it's hard because we peeled all the downforce off of this thing that we can, so we're sort of at a limit. So if people find other things, it'll be tough to compete. We don't want to compete just to make the field. I want to be here to win this race. So sadly, I don't know if we're in the right position right now with a couple things that we've got going on. But the team has done a really good job with the car. The balance is fantastic. Even with no downforce, I think the balance is quite nice. So that's good, and we just got to roll out tomorrow and just see what happens.
How much satisfaction do you have knowing where you were Tuesday to where you are now? How much change has been made?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's a great process that we've gone through. My engineer Dan Hobbs and I have been we were really confused about a lot of stuff. This car was not agreeing with me at all, and we got through that. So Indy always throws you curveballs, and you could have the worst days ever and then find one thing that makes it right, and we did that. So finally we are sort of on the right page, and we just gotta put it in the show and then see what happens.
Saturday was the first day of qualifying. The 33 fastest cars would be locked into the starting field on Saturday, so 2 cars would be going home. Daly qualified early in the day at 222.684 miles per hour, but Ed Carpenter then bumped Daly from the field, meaning that the stepson of the chairman of the board of the then parent company of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway bumped the stepson of the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Daly qualified again at 224.736 miles per hour, bumping teammate Pippa Mann from the field. However, Oriol Servia bumped Daly, so Daly had to make another run. At 5:27 p.m., Daly took to the track for his third attempt and went 32nd fastest, bumping James Hinchcliffe from the field. Daly had a 1-car margin as James Davison was 33rd fastest. Hinchcliffe went out for another attempt, but a massive vibration kept the number 5 car from making an attempt. The gun fired at 5:50 p.m. with Hinchcliffe sitting on pit road. His time run out and his chance to race gone. Mann was still on track, but was too slow to make the field. Daly had to requalify on Sunday as part of the 10th through 33rd place group and was slowest in the field, but that didn't matter. Daly was in the show. On Saturday afternoon, his relief was apparent in his post-qualifying interview.
How were those last 30 minutes there for you?
It was tough, man. I mean, yesterday we were confidently in high 226s, so we didn't really expect to worry. And then we went out on our first run and we had a massive imbalance, massive problem. But we found the problem on the scale pad. But once you're already out, you're in big trouble. So we trimmed out. We made some changes, mechanical changes that we didn't know if it would work, and we just had to go out and hold it flat. So I never pushed harder on that pedal, and I just tried to make sure it didn't crash, and and we made it. So it's it's a relief just for this whole program and for my career, and so I'm happy to be here.
When you look at where you were on Tuesday to where you are now, you've gone over the whole gamut of emotions. Just how taxing has this been for you?
Yeah, I mean, we started a day behind, and we're trying to make that gap up. And obviously, any day you miss, at the Speedway is a tough one. So, I'm just proud of the team, proud of the guys for getting better every day, and we've just been figuring things out. And I hated that we were in this position, but we did what we had to do.
Daly was 32nd fastest in the post-qualifying practice on Monday and was slowest on Carb Day, the Friday before the race. But after the hectic qualifying weekend, that was okay. Race day dawned with Daly starting beside Alexander Rossi and Jack Harvey in the last row. Daly ran last early in the race and luckily avoided a pair of accidents. James Davison and Takuma Sato collided almost immediately behind Daly, while Ed Jones spun and Daly avoided the spinning number 10 machine after Jones hit the wall. Daly made it through the race with a pit crew that wasn't as fast as other teams. In fact, Daly's younger brother Christian changed his left front tire during the race, but there was one distinct memory Daly had during the race.
So we had to shut the car off while I was out there, which was weird, and turn it back on. And I think because of the way it worked out, we lost a lap, but we shouldn't have lost a lap pace-wise, because it was actually okay.
Daly finished 21st, one lap down to eventual race winner Will Power. Because of that race, Daly began a partnership with the U.S. Air Force that lasted through 2021. Later in 2018, Daly ran some races for Harding Racing that helped keep him on track before running 7 races in 2019 and going full-time in 2020 between Ed Carpenter Racing and Carlin. I wanted to end this video with an editorial. In May 2018, Alexander Rossi recorded an episode of the Dinner with Racers podcast and called Conor Daly IndyCar's little brother. In a way, Rossi was right, because a lot of people were happy to see Daly make the show. Conor always had a great sense of humor and presence on social media, but for some people there could be a lingering suspicion about how serious he was about his craft. 2018 put those doubters to rest, as that month made Daly dig deeper than he has at almost any time in his career, because missing the race was not an option for him, despite that being a distinct possibility. The change in Daly's demeanor during the week was noticeable after practice each day. Daly didn't even want to talk on Tuesday, expressed plain frustration on Wednesday, and then sounded confident on Friday, and those subtle mood changes are noticeable, especially with how bad things were at the start of the week. It was a true journey that readers of the Noblesville Times got to experience every day in their newspaper. Making the race in 2018 recharged Daly's career and gave it new life. It also gave current IndyCar fans a new reason to root for an Indiana native. That was a retrospective about Conor Daly's 2018 Indy 500 effort. I hope you enjoyed that look back at an interesting collaboration between 2 team owners, a sponsor, and a hungry driver. If you liked that video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, just like every other YouTuber asks you to do. If you don't want to, I understand, that is your decision. I'm Christopher DeHardy, and I'll see you at the racetrack or in the next video.